New Super Mario Bros. Third World is tropical themed, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out what that means. Water levels. But despite my distaste for them, they aren't that bad here. In fact, the water levels you're about to see do a lot of things right. 3-1 begins in a similar manner to 1A, where you go down a pipe to enter the water-filled abyss, and right as you're expecting to be taken on a not-so-fun-filled auto-scrolling adventure, it never arrives. Yeah, the devs just didn't implement auto-scrolling into this level, and yes, it's a lot better because of it. No longer do you feel like you have to swim at an agonizingly slow pace. You can go as fast as you want, but ironically enough, your newfound speed may have to wait after you see these mega cheeps, which ambush you as soon as you start holding your breath. The coin path shows you how to avoid the second one, and passing through the red ring gives you a cute challenge where you bob and weave to collect the goodies. With a checkpoint and an ever-changing item block, it feels like you're being told the next section is going to be more difficult, and that would be correct. This place is filled with cheap chomps, which really put the word cheap into perspective considering they can devour you whole. Doesn't matter if you were big or small, you will die, so use the blowing warp pipes to your advantage and avoid them. But isn't it weird how out of all of these warp pipes, this is the only one that isn't blowing? The game likes to use little discrepancies like these to indicate areas of interest, and lo and behold, it does lead to an underwater sub-area, complete with tons of coins and a star coin. The second one isn't too far off either. It's between two pipes blowing downward, requiring you to carefully move between them to nab it. The third one isn't too far off from that, being surrounded by blocks. You can obtain it by smacking it with your head while big, or hitting the earlier P-switch to turn everything to coins, and simply passing through. The last section ramps down the difficulty with a quick red ring challenge around these terrain blocks, before popping you out onto dry land. You can gain access to 3A after paying 5-star coins on the world map, potentially making it your first level of this world instead of the one we just covered. And frankly, I do prefer it because I enjoy it when water's used as a punishment instead of the main gimmick. As soon as you start, you're greeted with skeeters who have nothing but good vibes and bombs. As you can imagine, the bombs make it hard for them to form relationships, but that's okay because it's fun just skating around anyways. Jumping off one can save you from taking a dip in the water, but avoiding a dive or two may prevent you from enjoying what it has to offer, such as a red coin challenge that tells you to run around this block of terrain for a power-up. You'll notice the fear of being below a skeeter once you're in the water, cause they are quick about reaching you and dropping bombs. It creates this situation where you're like, I've gotta avoid this water as much as possible, and that's frankly a fun feeling to have. The next section can make you feel that way even more with these rotating platforms, which can easily make you take a dive if you're not careful. This stretch of water leads to terrain that's too high for you to jump, but look, a red switch that activates some blocks. This would feel nice if it didn't mean you had to avoid the skeeters as you navigate to the newly created platforms. The checkpoint offers a torture spot for the Koopa Troopa, where you can banish him to smacking back and forth for the rest of his sorrow-filled days. The first star coin, which is uncharacteristically popping up quite late in the level, is trapped between blocks that can only be broken by bombs. But hey, check out that skeeter. If you bait it into destroying the blocks above the star coin, then it's an easy retrieval. But what if you accidentally kill this skeeter? Are you doomed to a life without this first star coin? Nope, you can still get it by sneaking under these blocks here. No destruction necessary. The second star coin is hovering above multiple barrels that, when stood on, roll you down into the water if you don't jump in time. There was actually one at the beginning of the level too, but here they actually pose a challenge since there's way more water to fall into. This pipe leads to more of the overworld, where you'll discover a mini warp pipe, which is just great because that means you've got to go back and get a mini mushroom to store in your inventory, right? Nah, they give you one from this item block here. This mini sub area grants coins and a power up, so if you were expecting a star coin, then I'm sorry to disappoint. Not all mini sub areas contain them. The little quirk about being able to run on water while mini gets a lot of use in this level. You don't have to worry about falling in the water, and your high jumps make it easy to reach the higher up terrain. Heck, the third star coin can't be reached due to the water below and requires the mini mushroom to nab it. Your last challenge is a couple paratroopers and skeeters, but they're no big deal as you warp pipe to the flagpole. 3-2, one of my favorites due to its theme of height management, as in the level has many challenges that can only be overcome if you perform your actions at precisely the right height, whether that be higher up or down low. The The first example of such a challenge is this block here that must be hit with a Koopa shell. Doing so is a bit difficult due to the tilting mushroom, so you've got to time your throw for when the mushroom is tilting down towards the block. These mushrooms, by the way, are everywhere in this level. You can't avoid them. They love dancing left and right, forcing you to keep your wits about you so that you don't succumb to the pits below. Thankfully though, the first examples you're given of them are pretty wide, letting you get used to how they move before the difficulty increases. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you throw this Koopa shell at the right time, then it'll obliterate just enough enemies in a row to reward you with a 1-up mushroom. Mushrooms aside, the pulleys from 1-5 have returned to see if you remember its little circus act. The yellow pipe warps you to the first star coin where you've got to wait until the mushroom brings you close enough to grab it, a fairly simple request. It's when you encounter the pulleys later on that the requests become a bit more demanding. You don't have too much leeway in terms of failure, considering the mushrooms are rather thin, but if you manage your jumps and hop along at the right heights, as indicated by the coins, then the second star coin is a clean grab too. This stationary mushroom immediately moves upon standing on it, but wait, what are these pipes about? Trying to jump into them is pretty hard with how much your mushy pal is dancing, and you'll find that the first two don't even take you anywhere. Oh, the third? Yeah, it's kinda mean, but the first two pipes are red herrings meant to dissuade you from testing the third. But when you do, you'll enter the Glorious Skies sub-area, where you can gather many a coin to your liking before succumbing to a terrifying section of dancing mushrooms. These guys are all over the place. I wouldn't be surprised if a kid got stuck in this part for a while due to how chaotic everything is. But should you best it, a secret exit is waiting for you. It unlocks the path to 3B. But before we talk about that great level, we must continue on the main path the Mega Mushy Boy led us on. That path leading to tons of pulleys and a red coin challenge. Despite red coins normally being placed in a set of difficult locations for you to test your grit, these ones are fairly reasonable indicators of where you've got to go. How nice of them, except for this last part which may catch you off guard with how the pulley drops. Take one last look at the pulleys, by the way. You won't see them anymore after this level, for this was their final challenge. The last mushroom carries you along while dancing on its own, which is fine, but you've got to make sure you jump at the right time for the star coin, or else you're going to have to restart for another go, which I'm sure nobody wants. While we could move on to 3 Tower, let's instead go to 3B, a level in the sky that's made entirely out of pipes. Gotta say, I love the aesthetic, and so do the piranha plants apparently. Seriously, there's a ton of these guys here, and by the end of the level you'll start thinking that every warp pipe contains one. The first star coin is blocked off by blocks that you can't destroy, which leads your eyes to the pipe down below. Oh, so one of the pipes in the level leads to this one. That's pretty straightforward, except, you know, the level is made of pipes, making this star coin a bit more evil than you might have first given it credit for. On the bright side, these mini mushroom pipes are cute. After testing pipe after pipe, you'll eventually enter one that works, where you must again test pipe after pipe to find the one that leads you to the star coin. The challenge isn't as hard as I make it out to be, honestly, since the pipes you've got to enter are the same color as the one you saw at the beginning. But let's be real, that logic didn't stop anyone from testing out every pipe that they saw. The second star coin looks difficult, but doable if you go at it from the right angle. Oh. That's mean. This guy's completely encased on all sides, or so you may think. You'll notice that there's an opening where you can wall jump between pipes and claim the star coin after entering its base. Gotta think outside the box for this one. The final section really just said screw it and threw in as many piranha plants as possible to try and end you before you reach the flagpole. If you don't have a fire flower upon reaching this part, then you'll have to be patient with your jumps, especially when preparing to grab the third star coin down below. All in all, I can't believe the devs made a level entirely out of warp pipes. What were they thinking? 3C might be the most straightforward level in the game. There's platforms, there's water, there's spike basses. Done. If you can understand that much, then you've got the idea. Unlike 2A, which dabbled with the spike bass, this level is fully content with having you deal with him head on. After the first solid platforms, you'll encounter ones that are a bit smaller, which fall when stood upon. Their purpose is realized when you reach the first star coin, where you can drop, grab it, and hopefully hop back up to safety. While I'd love to say things get better, they most definitely do not, because the spike bass brought its cheap companions, who all love to jump out of the water work just like he does. Sure, the actual platforming stuff is simple, but I'd rather take more difficult platforming over getting bombarded by fish that want me to enter a watery grave. The checkpoint is a bit of a break before the second star coin, where you can't drop to it via platform like the first, but must instead enter the water, jump up to it, and then navigate back to dry land. Can you tell that the devs were having a ball designing this level yet? Because I sure can, and honestly, I kind of respect it. This feels like the kind of level I would make. This P-switch spawns coins in a row, which urge you to follow them, but if you quickly hit this block, then you can get a star, making these jumps along the coin trails a lot easier, eventually landing you right below a red pipe, that which entered will drop you onto the final star coin. A wonderful finish to a level that I'm sure the devs made within an hour tops. Good for them. 3 tower is a mess, and I am all here for that. You begin with 3 warp pipes to choose from. The first one does this odd turning motion and blasts you at the wall. Guess it was having a bad day. The third one does a cute little to the left and blasts you to the first warp pipe, which I'm sure it's fond of. The second one blasts you straight up, as you may have expected one of them to do, but even it does something funky in that it overshoots the first fence. Why is that a big deal? Because the left part of the first fence leads you up to this left section that ends with a star coin. This means that you've got to drop down to the first fence because the second warp pipe got a little too overexcited in how far it shot ya. Oh yeah, these fences are the gimmick of this level. You can climb on the front and back sides of them, and so can the Koopa Troopas. Whenever they reach the end of a fence, they'll continue climbing it to the other side. You can only hurt them and be hurt by them if you're on the same side of the fence that they are. Unlike them though, you can't just flip to the other side whenever you want. You've got to do it by smacking a flip panel. Your first example of one is littered with a bunch of zappy lads, who were purposely placed all in a row so that you would have to learn about fence flipping. After this flip, you'll find yourself on the back side, which doesn't really affect how you encounter enemies that aren't on fences. If you break this block via a Koopa shell, then you'll find multiple coins on the backside of a fence. So not only can enemies be found on the backside of fences, but collectibles as well. Good thing that these coins were on the right side. It would suck if a collectible, like say, a star coin, was on the opposite side of a fence as you. Oh crap. A simple matter, you might think. All I've got to do is find a flip panel so that I'm on the same side as the star coin, right? Yeah, pretty much, you got the right idea. But the level doesn't make it easy. You could go back to the first one you encountered, squeeze past one of the zaps on the edges, and flip back to the front, or platform your way higher up the right side of the tower and do the same with this flip panel. The first method requires backtracking, and the second method requires you to be big, because otherwise you won't be able to break these blocks to access the area. Back on the main path, you'll climb up to find a door that brings you to the bottom of another climbing section. But where does this door lead? I am not impressed. This fence is unique in that you've got some Koopa Pals to flip with should you punch the flip panel. This maneuver can be a bit scary, but it sure is fun to watch. The rest of this climbing section is a matter of patience. You've got to watch for which side each Koopa is on so that you don't accidentally run into one on your way up. That could be easier said than done though, because you'll eventually run into Koopas that don't climb horizontally, but vertically, and they can still flip to the other side of a fence, just by climbing over the top this time. Dealing with them would be simple if you were scaling wide fences, but this last one is tall, making their behaviors here a bit scary to say the least. Taking the door leads you to the boss door, except this wasn't the right path to obtain the third star coin. We were supposed to take a different path right around here for that. This place is quite the challenge, in part because it's time-based due to this red switch which spawns red blocks that are required for you to progress. Your journey starts off with some simple climbing and platforming, at least until you meet 2 Koopas in the fence that are each moving on the fence in a different way. One is moving horizontally and one is moving vertically. They were truly made for one another. The other 3 are nicer with their movements, letting you press onward to collect the third star coin and proceed to the room before the boss room that leads to the boss room. Bowser Jr.'s behavior is still the same, but I swear it'll change in the future, just trust me on this. The only difference in this boss battle is that the floor isn't lava, but water, which honestly isn't a big deal so long as you carefully jump back up to the arena. 3-3 presents us with yet another underwater level that doesn't have auto-scrolling. This place is still still pain and agony incarnate, don't get me wrong, but at least you can take it at your own pace. Oh, why agony? Why pain? Cause bloopers, that's why. These guys are pure suffering as they swoosh towards you if you're above them or droop down as you're below. Does it get any better? No, they are a pain the entire level. This section contains many warp pipes pushing you away from continuing on the main route, leading you to check out what's in the abyss, where you'll find a star coin just vibing there. What's the challenge here? Do you even have to ask? Hitting the switch causes the pipes to stop blowing, as evidenced by the one right next to the P switch, well, stopping. If you hurry up to the previous section fast enough, then you can continue on the main route before the pipes reactivate. Either that, or cheekily grabbing a power-up before heading on your way. The red ring challenge here kinda misses the challenge part considering it's incredibly easy. What isn't easy though is finding the second star coin. It's in a sub area that you've gotta enter via pipe, but there's so many in this level. It could have been one near the beginning, one that was spewing air, or any of these. You've really gotta test each and every one until you find the one that works. And when you do, you'll discover a wide open pool of bloopers who are guarding the star coin down below. Oh god, they've already started breeding. There's no hope for us now. Let's just get out of here as quickly as possible. The next corridor pushes us to the exit warp pipe, but we've got to brave all the blowing pipes down below so that we can grab the third star coin and avoid a bloopy fate. I've never felt more thankful to be on dry land. 3. Ghost House, our first ghost house of the game, and it wastes no time leaving an impression considering the first item block you hit spits the item out in a rather mean way. You'll also notice that the level map has been replaced with a couple boos laughing at you. Other than aesthetic, I imagine this was done because ghost houses tend to be rather vague with how much progress you're making, so a level map would be pointless anyways. You'll immediately notice that there's a slope too steep for you to climb. You just slide right off of it, so when you explore around and hit this switch, that slope will suddenly pop out some stairs for you to climb it. However, if you take too long to do so, then the stairs will retract and leave you to slide all the way back down as punishment. The apex of this section introduces you to your first boo, who hates it when you stare at him, but loves it when he's staring at you. They aren't particularly fast, but their ability to phase through the level's geometry and not be killed by jumping or fire flowers can make them a bit irritating, which, now that I think about it, seems to be their life goal, so I guess they're succeeding at their mission. I find these coin placements here rather amusing. It's a bit difficult to collect them all while the stairs are out, almost like the devs intended for you to run out of time when you got to the top so that you could just slide down to the bottom. This is a rare case where if you played super well by climbing the stairs quickly, you would have been punished by being given a hard time at collecting these collectibles, which is the kind of backwards logic I dig when it comes to ghost houses. Up ahead, you'll take your first look at what we call a splunkin, which functions kinda like a Goomba, except when it's hit, it'll speed up, and when it's hit again, it'll finally be dealt with. I'm glad the devs didn't just throw Goombas in here. That would feel pretty out of place with the aesthetic, so making a variation of them that better fits it was a great move. This first door leads us to a dead end, with one block granting a power-up and the other granting a boo. Okay, so now you know that blocks in ghost houses can also screw with you by just spawning out boos whenever they want. I bet that'll make you think twice about hitting these things without care. This door also leads to a dead end, but the star coin makes it well worth it. You simply have to jump on the head of a splunkin to make the height, directly showing you their endurance. This slope means you need to hit another switch to form a staircase, where you can climb up and jump to the left to continue climbing this other staircase that leads to a star coin. From here you can make your way back to the main path, where it's not apparent which way you have to go. Hitting the switch as you have been will spawn a door that leads back to the main route, but if your curiosity gets the better of you and you decide to backtrack, then you'll find this new door that spawned next to the earlier one you entered. It leads you straight out of the ghost house, rewarding you with a cleverly hidden secret exit that unlocks the canon to World 6, a completely fair gift considering how few people will find this exit on their first playthrough. It's certainly one where you've got to think outside of the box in order to find it, and I respect it a lot for that. Back on the main path, you must face the staircase gauntlet by activating the switch, and quickly jumping higher and higher until you reach the final door. But we still haven't gotten the third star coin yet. If you head to the right, you'll notice two blocks guarding a hole, but there's no Koopas around. You aren't entirely screwed out of this star coin though, thanks to this switching item block over to the left. If you time your jump and manage to get a blue shell to pop out, then you can use it to break the blocks and obtain the third star coin. Do I like this design? Not particularly, but I feel a lot better about it when I consider the fact that this is a ghost house, which is meant to be mean. After escaping it and finishing the level, we can move on to 3 Castle, which contains one of my favorite castle gimmicks in the game, skewers. They relentlessly smash down, obliterating anything that comes in their way. They aren't reacting to any movements, however. They perform their actions on a set timer, so you can be sure that when one retracts, that it'll come smashing down again just a moment later. The first star coin tests your courage by challenging you to get in and out as quickly as possible. These falling platforms are a bit spooky if you get caught standing on them, cause look, there's water below you, which shouldn't be surprising considering this is the castle for the water world. Let's just be grateful that they didn't design a fully underwater castle level. This is a much better alternative to such a nightmare. At the checkpoint, you'll be reunited with your good buddies, the Womps. Took a while for them to show up in this game. They do a little hop before slamming down on you, which hurts, but you can use their slam down self to your advantage by standing on their back, such as here where you can avoid getting hurt by the spikes as you leap to the pole. Unfortunately, the star coin is a bit too high up, but if you proceed onward and platform along, you'll see a big boy womp and a rope. You might first consider to simply jump off the rope in the direction you were going, but you did leave that star coin behind, and there's some blocks higher up to your left. If you use the rope's momentum to land on these blocks and scale to the ceiling, then you'll be in a prime position to grab the star coin, landing on the womp that kindly flattened itself so that you wouldn't suffer from any spikes. The big boy womp is in an annoying position, meaning you've got to bait him into falling down so that you can actually leap over the beast. When you do that, you can choose to enter the cubbyhole down below if you're scared of being crushed again. A callback to the castle from World 2 where you could do the same to the rolling spike balls. One power up later and we're about to enter a 6th segment where you run and jump over the skewers as they slam down behind you, barely escaping their deadly touch as you take a breather on the safe ledge thereafter. Now that's how you make a short and sweet segment to remember. After avoiding the next skewer, you'll see the boss doors, but you do still need the 3rd star coin, which can be found on this high up ledge next to spikes and of course another skewer. To top it all off, you enter this death trap by jumping out of water, making this challenge a grueling one if you don't get your movement right. If you do, then hope you beat the boss of this castle so that you don't have to go through that pain again. The boss being Cheap Skipper. This bad boy stalks you from the water and leaps to the bridge you're on, bouncing however many times it wants on dry land before returning to the depths below. Your aim is to jump on it when it enters your domain, but that can be easier said than done considering it brought its goons with it too. That's right, it has 3 jumping Cheep Cheeps that assist it in jumping at you. They don't respawn though, so you can eliminate the Cheep Cheeps to make the fight easier, but you're probably better off just avoiding them by jumping yourself, wall jumps included. Considering you've faced jumping Cheep Cheeps before, as well as a less difficult version of this boss via the spike basses, this challenge should feel right at home with what you're used to. And when you fell the foul beast, Mario will shout, and you'll enter the next room, which unsurprisingly ends in Mario forgetting how to run for a moment, thus wrapping up World 3, a world that I frankly had low expectations for coming into it considering it was water themed, but ended up enjoying a lot because it rid itself of the auto-scrolling plague and mixed things up with some unique looking settings. Gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised. While this world does lead to World 5, we still need to cover the alternate world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time when we visit World 4.